William Afton is the worst character in the FNAF universe, alright? He's the main antagonist, the purple guy, Springtrap, scraptrap, burntrap. Dude has more names than Denareys Targarian, but while he may have done some horrible stuff, he's had some equally bad things happen to him. And the worst things to happen to William Afton is what we're exploring today. Let's do it. And be sure you let me know your favorite FNAF moment of all time in the comments. And at 10, Sprung. So, this absolute animatronic genius, the technician that made the suits, handles the suit maintenance, and is explained to every employee that has to put one of these on the proper procedure and how, like, you don't get killed within the suit, ends up climbing inside in a panic in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful when he's facing off the ghosts of the kids that he killed, and then doesn't notice the moisture in the room, the leaking ceiling, just how wet everything is, which caused the spring locks to fail and replace every part of his body with metal. Wow. Which should have killed him. However, this lucky somehow managed to get possessed by someone who was so pissed at him that they kept him alive throughout all of his what should have been deaths, because they just wanted William to keep suffering. Do you realize how counterintuitive that is? Like, the man literally wants to live forever, and now you are enabling him to do so. Old Man Consequences is right. Leave the demon to his demons. Rest your own soul so that Afton can finally die and then actually suffer in hell for eternity, instead of like the dream version you made up while he was recharging underneath the Pizzaplex. Or, I don't know, before he showed up to FNAF 6. Whatever you were doing, okay? Whenever you were torturing him, for all, like, with the fake hell that you made up, God, come on. And at 9, killed his kids. The worst thing that Afton has had to him, or had done to him by far, is getting his kids killed, but it's also not something that, like, someone did to him. Like, sure, he may not have directly done it, but his actions ended up resulting in all 3 of his kids dying, alright? So, yeah, that's why it's higher. Him killing Charlie got Fredbear's closed, which resulted in Circus Babies having to open, which made him dust off Baby and the other fun dimes, which were designed to kill in the first place. Then Baby ends up grabbing and crushing Elizabeth, resulting in her possessing Baby. He superpowered the jaw of the Fredbear animatronic to use the new Freddy Fazbear's, which ends up crushing his youngest son's skull, since that was not a spring lock failure, due to all the, you know, the spring locks not actually being active. That's a whole other point that I rant about way too much. And while you could argue that that was Michael's fault, why would he think that Fredbear's mouth would be that overpowered, alright? If I'm sticking my finger in an animatronic mouth, I'm not assuming that it's gonna bite my finger off, right? So you just think that it's gonna scare the kid. And as the suit technician, William knew what he was doing when he was making that jaw. And then he also gets Michael killed when he sends him down to find his sister in sister location, which ends up getting him stuffed with Ennard, which then makes Michael want to let himself burn in Pizzeria Simulator. So yeah, William's actions got all 3 of his kids killed, but then he still had to keep going after it happened. But since he did it to himself, that's why it's higher on the list. And also, if you like FNAF and you want to hear me rant more about it, be sure you hit subscribe, alright? We talk about it probably too much. We're talking about other stuff too though, so please watch those videos as well. And at 8, Burn Baby Burn. William appears as the optional yet canon final boss in FNAF Security Breach, appearing as Burntrap, according to his name in the game files, but also that's kind of a dope name. He only appears in the Afton ending, or the Burn, or whatever, the canon ending to the game, but this form is a result of Vanny downloading William's soul from like the digital realm to his old like hybrid abomination of an animatronic suit, like the endoskeleton that has still parts of his corpse, but also he's kind of upgraded with like a new arm and stuff, it seems. But also it's so convoluted that we can't exactly be sure what's going on. But he has his entire lower jaw ripped out. You can see his skull, it's still covered in blood. He has burnt flesh all over him because he's, you know, burnt. Metallic black eyes, purple pupils. The suit is missing fur. It's open chest. He doesn't have like a midriff. He's ruining all sorts of school dress codes at this point. His old endoskeleton, for the most part, has been replaced in some areas with endoskeletons that the glam rock animatronics use, making him now taller and having sharp claws. 2 of his fingers are replaced with like fleshy fingery bones still, so like he still has parts of his hand. It's horrible, okay? Like imagine having to go through that after going through the FNAF 6 fire. And then after after that, having to go through yet another fire and a whole pizzaplex collapsing on top of you. Yeah, dude, what the hell? Just die already, please. And it's 7 stored his daughter. While we all know that Afton isn't the best father, I think that it's something else to end up locking your robot possessed by the soul of your dead daughter in an animatronic testing facility. What? That seems to be what's going on, and that seems to be a bit too far, if you ask for my humble opinion. But nevertheless, he still did it, and that's what Sister Location is all about. And William was even the one who sent us down there as Michael to find out what's been going on, and then we get shoved full of Ennard bits so that all of those homicidal maniac robots escape. God, did William know about that plan? Because in FNAF 6, Baby says that she'll make her daddy proud. So was William's intent to send us down there so that Baby could escape? And if that is the case, why did he lock her down there in the first place? I don't know. I mean, if she was your daughter, why not just have her chill around the house? Sure, she's a 6-foot tall giant clown robot, but in the books, Baby was able to transform between Baby and a human-looking animatronic at will, so why not add that to this version, and then you can have your daughter back, albeit a little bit more messed up, but still more like you in the long run, right? This family's messed the hell up, and nothing makes sense. But there you go. It happened. It still happened. Wow, that's messed up, man. And it's 6, single dad. Alright, honestly, while he may have done some bad shit, we have to at least give Afton credit for being a single dad. In this economy, being a single parent sucks, okay? Yeah, sure, you love your kids, they're a blessing, yada yada yada, but come on, it sucks, okay? And especially considering how it seems like William didn't even want his kids, the fact that he kept them alive is... Wait a second, that's right, he didn't. One of the worst things to happen to William was becoming a single father because it did not help the kids. It definitely ended up being worse for them, but no matter what way you slice it, William suffered as well. If he didn't want the kids, he suffered because he had them. If he wanted them, he suffered because he had to watch them die and it was his fault. If he didn't care either way, his remaining son decided to dedicate his entire life to undoing his father's work and ultimately tried to kill him. It's a whole thing. Michael didn't even consider nursing home, okay? He was nope, straight up to the big shuffleboard game in the sky for you, old man. Or, I guess maybe the one probably downstairs. Side note, some people think that hell's a punishment, but if Satan wants us to sin, why would he punish us for doing what he wanted, right? It feels like we'd be rewarded. Afton's probably just bumping, just chilling with Satan. Halfway through into number 5, Princess Quest. The whole reason that Princess Quest was a thing in Security Breach was to lock Vanny's consciousness away, or to lock the Vanessa part away, and prevent her from regaining control of her own body, okay? So why did William create, or allow for the creation of a fail-safe that undoes all that work and allows for her to escape? I mean, sure, they didn't expect the kid to come along and figure it out, maybe, but given the track record of everything that's happened, you'd think that Afton would have smartened up after at least 40 years, but I guess not. That's like having a self-destruct button on whatever thing you were gonna use to take over the planet or whatever. Or if any superhero had a take all my powers button just on the suit. Okay, why give it away to fail? Is that just the neurodivergent in me coming out? But still, this is one of the dumbest things that William has done, and probably the 3rd dumbest overall. But it's seriously, dude, why have a way to undo your evil plans? That's one of the most ridiculous things I think in this story. Alright, I get that it's so that we can save her and have a good ending from a gameplay perspective, but that ending isn't even canon, so we could have done without it. It's just one of the dumbest things known to man at this point. And if this is on the list of worst things that happened to Afton, this man is bad. Most of the that happened to him is his own fault. Honestly, straight up, it's his own fault. And for Possessed, assuming for this scenario that Cassidy is the one you should not have killed, this was one of the worst things that William had done to him. Or maybe he doesn't consider it a bad thing. Like I hinted at earlier, maybe he didn't think that getting possessed by Cassidy is bad, since the one you should not have killed after all is still keeping him alive. They're doing it as a way to make him suffer, or at least they were making him suffer until sometime between FNAF 6 and Security Breach. So, since it's potentially a bad thing, but also could be considered a good thing depending on the angle, it's kind of midway on the list. But even if he does consider it to be a good thing, or if Cassidy doesn't end up being the one you should not have killed, killing those 5 kids and making the missing children's incident a thing, it was a bad thing, since it caused basically everything else in your life to go downhill. And he does end up suffering extremely only because of that kill and the others. Plus, it means that the law was keeping their eyes on you, because kids died in your establishment after a couple of your kids had died. The missing children's incident wouldn't be something that he'd considered a good thing in that regard, but probably he would have considered it therapeutic. Getting close to the end at number 3, Henry. Why did you think that killing Charlotte wouldn't have any consequences? You killed your business partner's daughter. That is gonna be pretty obvious to him, especially when he was already suspecting that you were up to something. Like, he took extra care to protect her. Well, extra care, that's a whole other thing. But she still died. That's gonna be a vengeful father if I've ever heard of one, and he hasn't even needed vengeance yet. After you know that he's after you, or he seems like he's after you, you don't kill him next? Killing Henry could have done wonders for your criminal career. I mean, like, yeah, the cops were already suspicious of you, but as long as they can't find a body, you're gonna be clear again. They didn't arrest you for the missing children's incident, alright? Especially a jury who needs to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that you are the killer. If there's no body, there's no forensic evidence. And again, they didn't put you away for the missing children's incident, so like, just off Henry, and then you can stay yourself, or even stay Springtrap, and then not get burned 3 times, and Michael would still be alive, and you wouldn't have had to deal with FNAF 6. Just a whole lot of stupid. But ultimately, in at number 2, Robophobia. This is literally the phobia that this game is made for, and like, sure, it wasn't actually the reason that the game was made, like, seriously, but this fear is perfect for these games. And while sure, the thought of mannequins can creep anyone out, Robophobia is literally the fear of robots, and is surely the bread and butter of not only this series but for William as well. Because William must hate animatronics with a passion at this point. Since his victims possessed them, he got spring locked by one, he can only survive by being in one thanks to his consciousness seemingly being sentient code. But I mean, like, come on, that's ridiculous. If he isn't scared of robots, that would be a miracle, and I think that he kind of deserves to be scared of robots too, since, you know, he's combined with one, and that would make him in constant horrific terror, which is something that I think we would all love to see, but also would fuel him because of the constant agony that he would be feeling. So it would make sense, and understandably so, because I mean, if I was killed or should have been killed by a robot and I am now part robot, I would be pretty terrified of him. So, yeah. And finally, in at number 1, Baby. That's it. That's the number. Dude, he's the luckiest dude alive, alright? Your little girl was killed by a robot you made specifically to lure kids and probably got her design input on. And then you throw her in a storage locker, and then she doesn't try to kill you immediately? That's pretty damn lucky. But if she is the Blob, then 45 years later, or whatever the hell it is, come security breach, she does kill you, and you probably, hopefully, at least, I really, really hope that you're dead at this point. Just please be dead. Just, I really hope that it was the Blob that was Baby and she got so mad that she just, you know, ended it. And I'm putting this at the number 1 because I hope that it's a thing. But now, as I'm sure you're all asking, what did William do to deserve all this? Well, be sure you click the video that's popping up on screen now to find out. Thanks for watching.